Today's podcast, simulcast, I have a very special guest here. Not just a guest, a friend first, and a colleague second. Hussey is an experienced global professional that specializes in all things market listing and more. He is a manager of token listings and marketing at EMCD, one of the top seven mining pools, and they do all things crypto in one application. He's also a manager of business development and marketing at XD.com, the global exchange, where he analyzes new tokens and outreach strategies for client acquisition, while also designing and executing marketing campaigns and strategies with different media outlets. He's also involved with List My Token, where he is a manager of business development and marketing, and they specialize in all things tokenization. So if you want to take your products and tokens to market, to exchanges, they are the expert. Hussey leads the charge. He's a wealth of information, a wealth of experience, and there are a lot of things that's part of the learning process that's involved in tokenization and getting your tokens listed on an exchange. He is a consummate professional. So Hussey, welcome, and I will let you follow on with any additional information that I may have missed.
Thank you, Lani. First of all, thank you very much for having me. And that was a super introduction. So I have been never introduced like this before, so I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So nice to meet your community. So I've been focused on crypto last 5 years, and my focus is always help Web3 projects to select the right service providers, give them most transparent information, because I have seen in front of my eyes that projects, they just select a wrong partner, and unfortunately it goes wrong. They lose resources, time, and eventually the project dies. So I have seen that. I just want to fix that. So I like to give information in a transparent way and help the projects. So I'm very excited for this conversation. I really appreciate the intro, and let's just get started.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So first thing, my first question here really is, why should, why should projects consult with an expert when it comes to listing their tokens on a centralized exchange? And I ask that simply because many projects tend to confuse the process of getting listed on an exchange with just, oh, let's just go get listed, right? And they go on a website, right? And there's always this idea of, okay, let's, here's the list of the things we need. As long as we have the list of those things, right, we're good to go. And that's always an assumption. It's a complex process. There is administrative tasks and processes involved. So how do why do they need an expert to help guide them through that process?
Yeah, so it's sort of the same as if you go and buy a washing machine from Home Depot, let's say, because you need to know the, like, if it's gonna fit at your in your apartment, what kind of plumbing and all that. So similar thing, there are a lot of things that go with the listing. There's, like, of course, listing is one thing. There's liquidity concerns, market making, there is marketing, acquiring new users. So you need information, all the information, and you need to evaluate from every angle before going to the listing. Of course, it's a market, so nothing is guaranteed here. Of course, the token price, you don't know where it's gonna go. You can
Correct.
maybe prepare your best and then launch, and try to minimize all the risks, but risk is always there, 100%.
Yeah.
So if you are well aware, then you're gonna actually avoid the most certain mistakes that you come to realize if you didn't do your research and didn't talk to someone professional before doing that. So it's just like, let's say I bought something when I was like hyped up and I had good emotions, and I just bought it, and then after buying it I came to realize that there is this defect in this thing, and then and then I say, oh, if I had known this before, then I would have done things differently. So I keep hearing this phrase over and over in crypto. So this is why, just to minimize the risks, it's good to know everything before you go into this. And I think going into it well prepared is a much better strategy than just to dive into it,
Yeah,
because there are a lot of things that can go wrong in this. So
that's interesting.
yeah.
So, which leads me to another question, right? Are we in this hyper tokenization phase now in crypto? Basically, does every project need a token? It just seems to me like everybody wants to have a token for everything. I made a sandwich, I'm going to launch a token. We have an idea for a software, let's launch a token, right? We have a demo for a software, let's launch it, to the point where the token becomes the product and they forget that they have a product. They forget they're supposed to build something, and when they prematurely start, everything becomes so focused on the token that the project itself almost gets abandoned, especially when markets are healthy. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so this is technologies like this tokenization. I mean, it can be applied just like you said. I mean, starting from memes to basically everything. So, yeah, token is always connected with any, almost maybe 98% of Web3 projects. Token is there. So, I think that the use case of the product should be advertised rather than the token, because in the end of the day you need a proper ecosystem to acquire users for your product and then retain them over a long period of time. So how do you retain them is you give a product to users who use it
Yeah.
on daily basis. So token can be like a use case in terms of financials within your ecosystem.
Hmm.
Maybe you have like a product that can be bought and sold, so it can be done via tokens. But there are some projects that really don't need a token, but you know because it's Web3, they create a token.
Yeah.
So you have to evaluate whether you need it or not, and then if you need it, then how risky it is for you to have that fluctuation in the price. Because sometimes you build a community and you launch a token, but your token goes like 30% down, then nobody focuses on your product. After that, everyone is focused on the token. That token dumped, scam project, they're gonna say.
Yeah.
So you have to be very very careful. If you launch a token, you have to be very very careful about the tokenomics. You need to be very careful about the prices on different platforms and exchanges. You need to have a strong liquidity. Make sure that you know what's your circulation, make sure what's your liquidity, and then launch the token, of course. So you just need to be very careful in this, because
Yeah.
it is directly connected with your reputation, the price of the
Correct.
token. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, that being said, right? In your experience, when projects build communities, right? Do you think airdrops are a good idea?
It's not a good idea if it's just like giving away the tokens for free,
Mm,
because when you give away a token for free, it always comes back and
yeah.
bites your liquidity. So what you need to do is maybe design an airdrop campaign, because it's a tradition. It has become a tradition. So I mean, if you try to do something new, people may not understand it because community is used to it. Airdrop.
Hmm.
Right now, Telegram games are like on top, millions of users. Like for example, Hamster Combat, more than 200 million, crazy in a short period of time.
Hmm.
And guess why? Airdrop is coming. This is the thought that people have in mind. Airdrop is coming. So it's a tradition. So when you want to do an airdrop, do it wisely. Maybe give them tasks to perform
Hmm.
first, so that they become a member of your community. Give them incentive to maybe buy the token at a lower price. Make sure that you have the liquidity to support. If you, let's say, give the tokens for free because you think that this is the best way
Yep.
to acquire users, then make sure that you have more liquidity than the amount of tokens you gave for free. Because
Hmm.
anyway, whenever you're going to list on any exchange, users are first thing they're going to do is deposit and cash out. And if
Yeah.
you don't have strong liquidity, then you see minus 99% in last 24 hours of the price, and that's devastating, of course. So you can do it, but you have to do it smartly.
Hmm. So that's a very interesting observation because I find a lot of projects get into what I call death by airdrops,
Yeah.
which is especially prior to going out, and get to get listed. First things first, there is it's like bribing users, right? And they're what I call missionaries and they're mercenaries, right? So I think the missionaries are your partners. So if I came to Hussey and say, hey, you guys have been doing this for a long time, I'd list my token, your team has just been doing this forever and you've worked with everybody. So I would want us to put together a plan. And while I'm also working to build in our community and ecosystem and then attracting real builders, so because those are the ones that you want to incentivize. And real builders generally, they're not going to dump. They're not mercenaries. They're missionaries because they look at themselves firstly as projects as well as businesses. You know, Whereas I think the hype around tokenization, oftentimes we get projects that they think by listing first, right, everything else would follow. So they don't build that community. And even when they do, it's a very artificial community where you have, oh, we're promising you guys airdrops. Just come follow us on Twitter, join our Discord, and join our Telegram because airdrops are coming. And my question on this really is, do you think it's healthy when projects leverage other projects? So it's like, oh, if you hold XYZ token, right, we'll give you airdrops on our token, once we're launching an exchange. So my point is, from your marketing experience and dealing with many projects, have you seen a change in that generally? Like people investing more in building their ecosystem prior to looking at an exchange, or do you think that behavior just hasn't changed?
It's starting to change. So still, unfortunately, it's the same, where projects, they focus on the product, they build amazing products, they're very talented and they have a very talented technical team. But when it comes to going to the market, they just think that, okay, let me list it and
Hmm.
we will see from there. So it's mostly like this. But now, because there have been a lot of crashes, you can say, like
Hmm.
tokens crashing on exchanges.
Yeah.
So now the thinking is changing. So first of all, we need to understand what is a listing. So a listing is like having your token on a platform where users can sign up,
Hmm.
go there, use their fiat. Some exchanges allow fiat. So use their fiat, use crypto, and buy and sell your token. And
Okay.
your token is there, is trading with the help of market maker. They fill up the order book. So it's basically a platform where buying and selling is enabled. This is a listing. This is an exchange. So when projects think that, okay, I'm gonna list on that big exchange, and then I will have influx of liquidity, or I will have influx of buyers, a lot of them, just by listing.
Hmm.
That's not a correct approach, because this is not how it works. So you need to focus on your community and product from the beginning.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand. So if you don't focus on community and focus on the product, you're missing out. If you just focus on community and you don't have a product, also you're missing out. So the focus should be to build a community, build a product simultaneously. And when you, let's say, even 50,000 is enough, like real users 50,000,
Hmm.
like a real community of 50,000 in your socials is enough to go to the exchanges, because those, in the beginning of listings, those users would go and create your volumes and liquidity on the exchanges. Whereas if you go, if you like do some campaigns of airdrop, one or two airdrops, give out tokens for free, and then just go to the listing, again liquidity drain, liquidity dump, and then founders say, oh, what happened? I had 60,000 in my account yesterday, today is 10,000, what happened? Then market maker is saying, please add 40 more. Exchange is saying, oh, please fix your order book or fix your spreads and all that. So there are a lot of troubles, and then they just get a headache. So focus on your community, build the product both simultaneously, and then go to the exchanges.
So now that leads me to my next question, which is the role of market makers. One of the things that I am very grateful for, at least in our relationship, is the introductions you've made. And a lot of those introductions have not only help, because oftentimes we assume like, oh, I've been doing this forever, I've dealt with multiple projects, what is it I don't know? I've seen the highs and the lows and all that. But then when we build relationships, we learn new things. And those introductions that you made earlier on, they helped me till this as of this morning. As a matter of fact, I was in a session with another one of the guys you introduced me to, and I learned a lot about the inner workings of market makers, the role they play, and why it's important to have a transparent relationship with them, and them understanding the short term, medium term, and long term goals, and working those strategies together. And my question here then is the role of market makers, and why projects need to not only be transparent with their market makers. What's their role, and why is it critical?
Basically, market makers are liquidity enablers. They enable buying and selling of a token on an exchange, and they're also responsible for spreads. They're also responsible of making your chart look solid. They manage your liquidity, and so they're very crucial, of course. Like exchange and market maker, centralized exchange and a market maker, it goes together. On a DEX, it's usually automated. Of course, there are market makers operating there as well. But on a centralized exchange, a market maker is very crucial, because they have like centralized system, their own servers. So you have to have a market maker to enable the order book. So of course they're very important, and their role is very important in your token growth over time. And if they're transparent with you and they're not doing some of the bad practices, which is mainly focused on making money for themselves,
Hmm.
they can arbitrage against you. It's possible. Even like an exchange can enable a market maker to arbitrage against a project. That's possible, and that has happened. It happens today also. So what it means is that your market maker whom you hired is actually taking out your liquidity, and sometimes an exchange whom you paid to get listed on that platform is taking money out of your liquidity. So this is why it's very important to have a market maker who's transparent and who you can trust, at least to some degree. At least some of the things that they say make sense to you. And if you hire a wrong one, then definitely it's like a parasite or a cancer. You can say you your project is like gonna be hurt very bad. So eventually you're gonna have to make that decision to maybe change, and then you're gonna have to rebuild. So, and also they're very important because whatever the actions that they do is directly connected with your liquidity and price, and that's directly connected with your reputation in the space. So this is why it's really important to select a good one who's transparent and who tells you how to improve or fix problems, and who manages your liquidity very well and doesn't do this money making things. Of course you can have a partnership with them where you know that, okay, this is the subscription fee, or this is the sharing or whatever, so that they also get value. Of course they're a business, they have to make money, of course, but it should be all transparent, not behind the back, so that you know what's going on.
And then with the exchanges as well, right? There's always been this battle around, should we, should we use the exchange's, market making capabilities, or should we use our own market making? A lot of projects ask themselves that question, because I have seen projects get burned by using the exchange's market making feature. And it's like, they run up the numbers and they do one big dump. And the problem is the project gets blamed for it by the wider community, and the community does not know that it was the exchange that pumped it up and dumped it because the project mistakenly used the exchange as a market maker. What are your thoughts on
Terrible. That's horrible, to be honest. So, I was briefly, I was involved with one exchange. This is when I was new in the space, like few years ago, 5, 6 years ago. And exactly the same thing that you described. I won't name the exchange, but um, what they were doing is they were taking out the liquidity. They had their own market maker, but they were telling to the project this is a third party, but it was their own internally. That's a lie, first of all. So secondly, I have seen messages where they were saying, can you take out internally, can you take out $10,000 of liquidity from this project?
that?
So they were giving directions to the internal market maker. So of course, that's terrible. I mean, this is pure scam, and I learned from it when I saw it, and I saw, oh my God, this is what happens in this space, right? And then after I saw it, I decided to you know be like this, to give out information, to help to uncover things, because only by being aware and uncovering things you can make good decisions. So if I, let's say, saw someone else make a mistake, or if I made a mistake and I give that information to someone, that person won't make that mistake. Most likely he will be saved. So this is my focus, this is what I do. So basically, I mean, coming back to the topic, this is a very bad practice, happens to this day, and unfortunately very less people know about it,
Yeah.
because this is a new space, and many of traditional businessmen or people who had an exit, like they started companies, had an exit in traditional markets,
Mhm.
because this is something new and promising and it's in the news now. So they're coming into this space, they're spending money, and they're trying to organize everything to the best of their ability. But what happens is there's lack of knowledge, and they just get trapped sometimes, unfortunately. And some of these exchanges are at that ranking,
Mhm.
so you can
I
imagine.
just had an experience this
Yeah.
past weekend, actually. A very dear, close friend of mine, and we've done a few deals together. It was actually one of my first earlier investors. He's done a couple of IPOs. I mean, he's like a whale's whale, but he's from that Web2 world, SEC governance, NASDAQ, all that. And he's always wanted to get involved in crypto for a while. And I go, okay. He's like, no, I want to get involved with, your project right now and all that fun stuff. And his first issue was, where can I get the token? So he goes to one other exchange. He's like, well, this is not in the US. I can't, whatever. So I had to teach him first, go to Coinbase, buy XYZ tokens over there, and then send it to a DEX, osmosis, right? And then once it's there to confirm, and then swap it into this. And, it's almost like you're going up to go down, to go left, to go right. And here is someone that's got insane amounts of money that just wants. And then it made me start thinking that, oh, wait a minute, you can't scale what you can simplify. The easier it is for people to use anything, the faster they're going to adopt it, right? And the harder it is to use, the slower, and you lose most of your potential participants, along the way. And it got the conversation about, okay, liquidity partners, exchanges, how they work, and all that. And the first thing he said was, you know what? Even though this one exchange is not available in the US that I can get your tokens from, I don't want to have to VPN because it's a trust issue. What if they're draining liquidity? And he starts going. And instead of looking at that as a knowledge issue, I looked at it more like a trust issue, simply because there's a perception that one, the easier it is to use something, the more you can trust it, because you don't have to hide anything if you're based on truth, right? It's people who are lying or trying to scam that often have things that are not straightforward. You see what I mean? So I think it also applies to projects and one the exchanges, what the relationships they build through that journey, hence where they end up, what exchanges they end up working with. I think one of the challenges today with DEXs, for example, is as much as there are good DEXs out there, there's still a trust factor, because everyone from, I mean, I once in real time watched $40 million drain, and I'm going, is this really, like, why is nobody doing anything? And I won't name the project, but why is nobody doing anything about this? It turned out the project was in on it. You know what I mean? So that's where I think centralized exchanges come in. There's governance, there's protocol. Well, I would say the top tier. I would say probably the top 25. I would say the bottom 75, I'm not so sure on. But when you get governance, there's protocol, and there's transparency for the most part. But you still do your homework. And I always say the things you don't know, find the experts at those things, hire them to help you through the process. You'll be better for it. But trying to figure it out as you go, I think that's the challenge for a lot of crypto projects, because to be fair, they're dominated by technical engineering, devs. And I have never met an engineer who didn't think they could solve anything. An engineer is the last person that would ask for help. They will build a Frankenstein solution before they admit that, okay, let's bring someone else to, and it's that push pull where, why are you always trying to like hack your way through problems? Let's find the experts, get guidance, make it work, and you'll be better for it. So that being said, where I'm going with this is, do you think projects should generally, have not just like beyond the tokenization strategy, growth, ecosystem growth strategy? Because it's not enough to just have, oh, we have 10,000 people in our ecosystem. Now we're going to go list, and now the world is great, right? Do you think their strategies should go beyond, their top line growth, whether it's partnering with other ecosystems? And at what point do you think, how many exchanges is enough? Okay, one
Yeah.
project today announced yesterday they simultaneously listed on 15 exchanges. And my first reaction to that was, is this a scam? Like 15 exchanges, just like boom. I mean, and I don't have that insight as to why, but again, you've been there, done that. You've seen all of this with your team. I want your take on that. Like, how many is too much? Like, what's overexposure?
Yes, very good points. I really like what you said. Especially simplifying things is very important. This space is already hard enough for new users. It's not so easy to get onboarded here.
Yeah.
So you have to simplify things. Nobody wants to get lost into details and all that. So the more you simplify, the better it is, of course. Okay, so exchanges. First of all, centralized exchanges, they are kind of saviors of this space, in my opinion, and they also have the highest volume. So when we say like decentralization and all those wallets and dexes, I mean, please, let's go and look at the volume on those, and then look at the volume on centralized exchanges. So it's a huge difference. So because it's hard to use, dexes are hard to use. So
Yeah.
first step is create your keys. Many people get lost in that. So I mean, where to write keys, or what is this, how do I have to put it? So centralized exchanges, if they do their job, what's their job? As CZ said, is hold the tokens one to one,
Yeah.
or whatever the crypto. I deposit something, one USDT on Binance. So the job of Binance is to hold my one USDT one to one. So
Yeah.
this is their job. And if they do this job, They are the best, of course. They're much better than your bank because they run on like financial reserves 25% or 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
So when there's liquidity crunch and all that, and everyone wants to withdraw cash, then ATMs don't work. So this is how traditional banking system works. Centralized exchange is much better because they have 100% reserves if they
Yep.
act, if they do their job properly. Which, in my opinion, all the exchanges that are successful have done their job. This is why they're here. For example, Binance or Bybit or other top tier exchanges. And there are, of course, you mentioned top 25. So after top 25, there are also a lot of good ones that are doing their job, and slowly they're coming up.
Yeah.
So the question about how many exchanges, um, if they come with a strong community, if a project comes with a strong community, and let's say millions, for example hamster combat, they need more exchanges because one exchange cannot handle all that influx in a day, because most likely they're going to do an airdrop in a day, and
Mm.
then even telegram wallet went down when not coin happened. So if the community is huge and they have to have multiple exchanges to support that community, then that makes sense. But if they don't have a strong community, and they haven't done their community building process, advertisement, didn't really say what they're doing, and then they're listing on multiple exchanges, then that doesn't make sense. Of course, if you're a new project, you have to start from one exchange, build some liquidity volume there, and then slowly go on more exchanges. So this is the difference between, I think it really depends on the size of community. um, you need to select more or less exchanges based on how big you are.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are your thoughts on hype? I think. Do you think it's good, or do you think it could be a net negative? Because sometimes you see, even an exchange hypes a project that's just listing, and the hype goes on for a while, and then the next project comes, and then the hype. It's like, what happened? They were just talking about these guys for like 2 days, and then boom, they're talking about the next guy.
Yeah.
Like what's going on there? Like, do you think it enables this what I call bad behavior on the part of projects? Or do you think it's a way to get them started after they've listed, and then, as expected, the responsibility is on them to actually show something, after being given that initial push?
Yes, a very good question. So again, tradition in crypto, Bitcoin hype, Bitcoin shot up to thousands of dollars. So, and then of course there have been a lot of examples: Solana, Dogecoin, Ethereum. Like most of them have gone like huge percentage up. So this space is like really is a hype space. So
Okay.
when you talk about the users that we have in this space, they're looking for hype. And of course we can like build an amazing product, and we can tell them that please come and try our product, and then hold the token and use it for long term. Yes, we can try that, but the traditional mindset is, if I buy it today, after 1 month, is it going to be 10x or is it going to be 50x? So
Yeah.
this is what they think. Yeah, so this is the mindset of users, and then some projects, they capture this mindset and then they create a hype and all that. So if you create a hype and you have success with it, then it's very important to maintain that success. And how do you do that is you make sure that you have strong liquidity to support your price, and it should remain at a certain level. Of course, 20-30%, even Bitcoin can drop from 70K to 49K, like beginning of August. So it was a huge dump, but it's the biggest crypto in the space. So that's okay. 20%, 30%, it's okay. Even 40% is okay, as long as you have fluctuations up and down. This is market, always happens. But when you just create a hype, you list, your token price goes up very high, and then it dumps, it keeps dumping, and then the situation doesn't change in 6 months, and it's like just after that even candles are broken. I mean, you're gonna see a lot of projects that were like very beautiful They took off very beautifully on the chart,
Hmm.
and then after the hype was gone, they dropped very badly, and then they just have broken candles, gaps in the candles.
Yeah.
That's terrible, of course. I mean, if you look at this chart, it's not worthy of being listed on any exchange. That type of chart. So you have to, if you maintain it, if you maintain your hype, and you keep it long term, I think you're gonna get rewarded very well, and it's good for the space.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most of the time, it doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
So it's just projects that they have to think: is it long term or is short term? And unfortunately, most of the time, it's like short term. Let's create a hype, let's make some money, and
Yeah.
then
And yeah. So do you think projects can recover after they flatline?
they can. They can. It is possible, but they have to have a good management and like a mindset. There are some projects that can that are hurt after the hype, that are hurt because of bad players in the market. They
Hmm.
can be like investors who dump. They can be bad market makers. They can be like users, like they did a very bad decision when they just actually did a lot of airdrops, just like we talked about.
Hmm.
The thing is, if you have a good management, I have seen projects like going 10x, then dropping like 9x, and then again going back up, because the founder behind that project, I personally know him. He was a visionary and he didn't give up. So he started from nothing. He took it up to 10x, and then it dropped because of some bad players, but because his vision was strong, his foundations was strong, he got it back up again. So it really depends on what kind of management, what kind of visionary leaders you have, and what kind of foundations you have.
Interesting. So do you think anybody reads white papers when they're interested in a project?
I think no one does.
So do you then think if most people read the white paper or the light paper, they would have a much more a longer term vested mindset in the project when they participate, either as token holders or contributors?
I think it's a very good way to. It's just like a business plan that you give out to your investors. That I'm trying to start this business. I need funding. So white paper is similar. Start from Bitcoin. It outlined the technology, and I mean, even I read, most of the people who believe in crypto space strongly, they have read Bitcoin's white paper and they were inspired by it, because it's much better form of money, much better financial system, more transparent and solid technology. So having a good white paper is very good. Of course, it's worth to spend time on it and express everything in there. And then of course, on larger level, I mean, not retail buyers, larger level, it works.
Mm,
On retail level, I think nobody, even like very less people, go into that details. And then of course, the reputation of white papers, unfortunately, is not so strong, because many of them would just copy paste, and just
yeah.
some projects just would just create something that doesn't make sense at all, just generic wording, just. So we really have to be very careful. So the real projects, of course, they put effort into that, is worth going into the white paper. I've been scoring tokens. It was like part of my job at one point, and also I do it just to research.
Hmm.
So, and out of 100, maybe 80 to 90 of them were just generic white papers.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there. And then of course, roadmaps and all that. I mean, if you have in your roadmap CMC and CG listing, you know that this is not a good project, because I mean,
Yeah.
is that really a roadmap? I mean, CMC and CG listing.
No, it's
So
funny you say that because it's amazing. I have seen, and I get pitches all the time, in terms of new projects. They want an advisor or they want an investor or something like that. And you look at it and you just think, like, dude, are you kidding me? Exactly what you just said. I have
yeah,
seen that on roadmaps,
yeah,
as if somehow getting on CMC is like it is accretive value wise to the entire project. Like it's actually inimical because it's like telling me, yeah, the accomplishment for today is to drink a glass of water. I mean, like,
Yeah.
good for you, but what does that do? Like,
Yeah. That's a great analogy. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so my other thing then is how do you like what would be your advice? What are the great ways that a project can really get an exchange, could really impress an exchange and have an exchange work closely with them beyond just a listing? Like what would impress, a centralized exchange to say, you know what, we like these guys, we like this project. Let's go the extra mile with them. Maybe give them additional press, do AMAs with them, do like what's the best way to impress an exchange that they just want to do everything they can to support a project?
Yeah. Very good question. So let's just dive into quickly what is an exchange and how do no, what's their business model. So it's basically focused on having more buyers and sellers, like volume. So basically there are fees involved on spot, like typically 0.2% buying selling fees. So this is the main source of income. And then of course there's futures trading, so of course the people do leverage trading there, so market makers help them make money from there, but mostly it's about volume. So when you go to an exchange with your army, I mean peaceful army of course, which is your community, you go to the exchange, then of course they treat you differently. So and most of the so I've been in exchanges for a long time, and when we research or review a project, the first thing we do is check their socials and also check their white paper and their team.
Mhm.
So this is like first focus that we have. And so if the community size is good, exchanges, they right away they soften up. They would give you, like, they would treat you differently, they would give you more respect in terms of pricing, or maybe they will have a strategic partnership with you. So go to an exchange after building your community and you will see the difference. And then you can also negotiate, because you're going to say, okay, I have this much community. They're going to say, okay, that's really good, because it's going to be like a huge number of people going on to their exchange and buying and selling, so that's a value for them as well, so they recognize that. So but when they don't have a community, when the projects don't have a community, and then also this like all over the place, white paper is not so good, so they also, good exchanges are skeptical, and they say that, okay, what if this rug pulls and ruins our reputation? So
Mhm.
this is
So how
different.
about beyond? What about after the listing, right? So everything checks out, they've done the listing and everything's good. Because exchanges have like an endless line of projects that I want to get. So you guys have a lot going on at any given point in time. What makes a project stand out after they've been listed with an exchange?
Yeah, you need to be on the surface. So you need to be there, your name should be there. What is advertisement? It's basically repetitive. You need
Okay.
to be present, your name should be there. So my suggestion to all projects is, don't become passive after being on an exchange. Keep highlighting yourself. There are a lot of tokens, so Binance is a very big exchange at
Mhm.
top. And there are a lot of tokens that I never heard about. They're on Binance. But what if they did some marketing with them? Maybe I received the notification every 2 weeks. So I see this, that okay, AMA is coming, or a trading competition is coming, or some kind of activity is being done on the exchange. So I receive notifications, emails, I see the banners. So if I see the name again and again, I just get familiarized with it.
Yeah.
So I know now, I already know. If I've seen it 5 times, I already know, oh, I know this. Even if I don't know the details, I'm gonna say, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
So this makes a difference. So this is why you shouldn't go passive. Like being listed on exchange and done shouldn't be the strategy.
Yeah.
Listing and then, of course, continue your momentum. Keep doing campaigns. Of course, not those kind of campaigns where you give out a lot of tokens for free, because again they're gonna sell. But some campaigns that get your users to exchanges users to actually know about your project, know about your ecosystem, give them tasks. Exchanges, most of the exchanges help with this, that they do campaigns through Telegram, through X platform, on their exchange, that they launch campaigns when there are like tasks. Follow my Instagram, sorry, Telegram. I said Instagram.
Telegram.
Follow my Telegram. Follow my X. Maybe read article. Go make a trade on my pair, and then you will get this much reward back. So that way you are educating them. That way you're making them do something practical, because of course after they do some tasks, on the other, when they go through the tasks, on the other side they're an informed user about your project. So keep doing activities, and those activities that actually engage users with you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's pivot to philosophy for a minute.
Sure.
And given you and your team you deal with on a global scale every day. I mean, you've been across a couple of continents just in the past few days alone. So again, I'm just thank you for making the time, because I know shuttling across time zones is very taxing. Just philosophically speaking, do you feel like blockchain has brought people together in ways that every other industry have tried and maybe had some marginal success? Or do you think it has, brought people together, but not, but still, while creating a gap between what I will call, not just the haves and have-nots, but the privileged and the less privileged?
That's a very good question. So blockchain space, once you're in it, because it's a minority, so once you're in it really becomes like a religion. So I mean, okay, oh, you're in crypto, oh, I'm also in crypto. We just have the rapport right away. So I mean, it doesn't matter from where you are, what kind of race or ethnicity or language you speak, doesn't matter how you look, always you have that bond. I have like people from almost everywhere except North Korea. But
Wow.
the
You're not friends
the
with Kim
communication.
Jong? Come on.
Sorry, I plan to send him an email later. Okay, so the thing is that this really really attracts people and make them be together, blockchain space, because it's like a small space. And also, if you believe in blockchain, if you believe in Bitcoin, you if you find a fellow believer, you just have that bond right away. So, and then it is also global, so it's from everywhere. It's like doesn't really have borders. I mean, there are people from Iran, there are people from Pakistan, there are people from US, from South America, from everywhere. So this is very amazing that one thing like blockchain helps us to communicate all over the world. I would have never done this kind of communication all over the world if I was in any other space today,
Hmm.
if not for Bitcoin and blockchain, of course.
Yeah.
So
So
this is a beautiful space. I love
it
it.
is. It's been amazing. And so do you think then that perhaps the reason every other attempt to bring people together, the reason they've been marginally successful, do you think it's because they are tied to fiat? Because, for example, you know, a dollar or a pound or a euro is not the same anywhere. Like I could take $1 to London, I could take it to Lagos, I could take it to Kinshasa, I could go to Caracas, you know what I mean? I could go to Manila, I could go to Russia, I could go to, Kiev, I could go to, Mexico. It's not the same. But if Bitcoin is at $50,000, it doesn't matter where you are. It's $50,000 for everybody,
Yeah.
right? And do you think like that intrinsic trust that is so transparent, there is no Federal Reserve or a central bank that's controlling, it's if it goes up, it goes up for everybody. If it comes down, it comes down for everybody. And there's that shared kinship. It doesn't matter if you own 100 Bitcoins or you own 0.0001 of a Bitcoin. the rate's flat for everybody. Do you think that contributes to why it's done more, bringing people together? Like if you're talking to a Bitcoin whale, you're both in crypto, it doesn't matter because you know you paid the same thing, regardless of
Yeah.
how much. Do you think that contributes to it, or do you think there's perhaps something else beyond that?
Of course, that is a very good point, and that does contribute to it because um, we know that like Bitcoin is Bitcoin and the price is everywhere the same all over the world. So that definitely makes sense. But one more thing, which so you and I, we are both in North America right now. I don't have a lot of experience here, but when you go to, for example, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, South Asia, this type of countries, there is a thing called P2P.
Yeah,
You know, exchanging from crypto to fiat, and then from fiat to crypto back without on an exchange, centralized exchange. So that really makes things easier for people because first of all it's very fast internationally. For example, let's say that I don't know about regulation here in North America. I think it's not so much common because like, I think exchanges don't provide that. I lived in Russia for some time, for a few years, and recently these issues that happened, there were sanctions, and we were cut off from Visa, Mastercard.
I remember that.
So yeah, so we have like let's say Russian issued Visa, Mastercard. I cannot pay for a Netflix or for airline ticket or like anything outside Russia. I cannot do that. So, how do I solve this issue? Is I use P2P or I use like some of those crypto wallets that accept USDT as deposit, and then they have a Mastercard on top of it that I can use. So this is what I'm using right now in North America also. So this is the best thing about it is that it solves problems. Now, big guys sitting on top of the governments created the problem, and they because of their quarrel between them, people are suffering. For example, I had to ask my brother one time to buy a ticket for me because just because I was in Russia and my bank card was like disconnected from all over the world. So and then when I had the crypto card and then I use P2P, it made my life easier. Otherwise I was like stuck because the money cannot come in through international means and it cannot go out as well through international means. So this is also a beautiful thing about crypto is that borderless. So I mean, do your politics, do your sanctions, whatever. This enables us to make transactions and make our lives easier. Just imagine that I'm in an emergency and I cannot make a payment, and maybe it's a life threatening situation, and it takes maybe 7 days for the bank transfer to come in or something. So I'm done. But in crypto, it's like very quick.
Wow.
Within 5 minutes, you can do P2P, or you can just transfer chain blockchain to blockchain. It's only a few seconds. So this is one of the biggest use cases in crypto that we ignore. And if this is adopted, then I think it will solve a lot of problems in traditional businesses. I also work in traditional businesses in advertisement section, and they really don't do crypto yet, and they send a payment, it takes 10 days. Sometimes it may take 1.5 months because they have to do some kind of verification. Give me passport, the money is stuck in the bank is not releasing it. Please wait until the bank refunds me the money, then I will send you through PayPal or something. What is this? I mean, we can do better than that. So the crypto is definitely a solution for this kind of things. And I think this is also one more thing that brings people together. And really this is like I think one of the strongest values in crypto is ease of making transactions internationally.
So my final question then is, knowing what you know now and all of your experiences, your life's experiences, all the relationships, and all of the exposure, what advice would you give your younger self, like when you were 15, if you could travel back in time, and don't tell me you're gonna tell them to buy like Bitcoin or something, right? Just stop mining Bitcoin.
I was about to say that. Joking.
But what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know now, and if you can advise the younger, the teens coming up in today's world? And I also, as you know, I like to preface my question with why I'm asking it. The reason I'm asking this question is a lot of the kids today. There's an old saying: "You don't miss what you never had." And the freedoms we had, at least I had when I was a kid growing up, these kids don't have today. And the access and all the things. And that's why I'm curious, given your exposure and your experiences, what advice you'd give your younger self if you could travel back in time, what would it be?
That's a really powerful question. I think the best thing when you're growing up, I think I would even start before 15, maybe let's say 12. I
Hmm.
think that's the time when your brain really needs to do something to develop. I think put yourself through uncomfortable situations, because that's the only way to grow.
Hmm.
There's no other way. Just like a muscle, you have to put stress on it,
Yeah.
and then it grows. Without stress, the muscle doesn't grow. Similarly, we humans, our brain, our tolerance level, everything is connected with if we had a worse experience.
Hmm.
So when you put yourself through pain, when you put yourself through stress, when you go through that stress, and when you come out the other side, you are on a next level. And
Hmm.
sometimes you don't even realize it, but you will realize it along the way in your life when people will tell you that, oh, your thinking has changed. I mean, it's and you're also going to say, oh yes, my thinking has changed, my status of life has changed, my level of financial situation, or my relationships, everything has changed, just because I have put myself through uncomfortable situation. So I think it's not my phrase. I saw it in the social media. There was a phrase called "seek discomfort,"
Yeah.
which I think I really believe in that. For
Hmm.
example, let's take an example of Elon Musk. He had like houses and all that. He sold everything. He just lives in a very small portable house, which is like only what $50,000 on Boca Chica Beach near Starship Base in Texas, and he just lives there. He's the richest guy on the planet, and well respected and all that. So, and he doesn't like really comfortable life. He's working all the time, and he has achieved the things that I think in recent times no one else has achieved, and I think he's gonna continue to do that. So the thing is, everyone who has made it, um, I'm sure you have made it, and you know what I'm saying. You understand that nothing is easy. You have to go through the stress. You have to be in uncomfortable situations in order to grow and become something better. And when you want to grow and you think that I'm in a bad situation, like I'm not growing or something, just put yourself through suffering. Do that, the things that you want to do, even of course everything is difficult. Of course, dive into it, do difficult things, and on the other side you will become better, of course. So this is my suggestion: seek discomfort. Yeah.
Seek discomfort. I'm going to use that. I can absolutely relate. One of the things I've learned is exactly that. The more you have, the less you realize you need. And that discomfort forces us to grow, we evolve, we'll become stronger and more resilient human beings on the other side. Hussey, this has been phenomenal. It's been awesome. I'm sure we're going to do a follow-up session. I'm super excited. It's always a pleasure whenever we have these interactions. And I mean, I know we can go on because there's a lot of philosophical areas that, we have shared perspectives on. This was a good insight into one, not just the industry, how you approach it, but best practices based on your experience. And there's no better person to have this conversation with than yourself. So thank you super very much for making this happen. And I look forward to having you back. So I'm going to cut the recording right now, but it's still going to be on.
Thanks very much, Lani. Thank you for